Good morning. This is Randall Ray from IC Bus, and it's going to be number 7 in our Staying Connected series, talking about what's going on at Navistar and IC Bus, and bringing this out to the field to our customers and our dealers. So welcome everybody. Today we're a great episode. Today we've got some special guests. We have Tammy Layton, the transportation manager from Huron Valley Schools, and DJ Schreider, the lead technician at Huron Valley. Presenting also will be Dave Bullen from our Navistar Connected Technologies, and of course Alan Stegish, our IC Bus Product Support Manager, and myself, Randy Ray, our IC Bus Education Director. So this is number 7 series, and we're going to talk about leveraging connected technology and what they're actually able to use this within their school district. We're going to talk a little bit about what is telematics, and of course OCC and our integrated partners. We'll have some demonstration, and we'll talk about the components and some advanced preventive maintenance capabilities as well. So a lot to cover today. It's going to be a lot of fun, like I say, because we will be having a live session in the middle here, and I'd like to introduce Huron Valley. Tammy, take it away. You'll need to unmute.
Hi there. So we got ONCOMMAND to help our garage staff better diagnose the buses, and particularly when we were short-staffed, it was another mechanism for us to be able to stay on top of the needed repairs. And it's come in handy. But we have the other functions on there as well to show idling times and harsh braking, harsh acceleration. It's got the GPS on there. You know what buses are at all times. We've really been very pleased with the
Tammy, can you move just a little closer to the microphone? We're having a hard time. You were very clear at before the meeting.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Significantly so. Thank you very much. Wonderful.
All right, I apologize. So we have had it how many years now? 3 years. And we've been very pleased with the performance of it. We initially got it to help with the mechanics and diagnosing the buses, particularly because we were short-staffed in the garage. And it has the other functions that are helping us as well. You can look up the idling times, the harsh braking, harsh acceleration. It's got the GPS on it, so we know where our buses are at. And just in general, we've been very happy with how much it's helped our guys stay on top of the repairs before they're even written up from our drivers and other staff.
Hey, DJ, a little bit of particulars about Huron Valley. If I recall, you've got 80 of the buses with telematics, and you've got a fleet of 90 or so. A little bit of data, miles traveled and stuff.
Yep, we got about 80 buses, 80 to 90 buses at any given time. 70 of them are on command all the time. Our buses average just in district alone on our short routes are about 25,000 miles a year. Our out district buses average anywhere from 50 to 80,000 miles, depending on how far out they go. And we travel a lot of miles. We got a lot of dirt road and back roads, so it tears them up pretty good. Yeah, we've been using it for a while. It's saved it because, like, now when we use this, I can be ahead of the guys on maintenance schedules and everything else, or maintenance needs to be done, because I can generate just off of this on the average every day 3 to 5 extra work orders that a driver didn't turn in for repairs, and it's eliminated our downtime by a lot. We've gone from, we used to tow on the average probably at least 3 or 4 buses a month, and now we might do 1 a month, because now we're way ahead of the schedule, because everything on there, you get a flag and it tells you when something's down, whether it's a stop now, service now, or whatever it is, and you can get ahead of it before the driver calls in and it's a road call.
Hey, Dave, would you want to flip the next slide? I think there's something to be proud here of where Huron Valley has gone, and we'll let Tammy and DJ talk about this slide, please.
Yeah, If you see in 2017, that's before we got ONCOMMAND, and we were short help. There's only 3 guys in the shop. We run a crew of 6 to keep our fleet up and going. So that's not just buses, that's other district truck vehicles that have to be done. And with ONCOMMAND and all that, and the other ones that you see, it's improved us. We've gone from, what was it, first 36 red tags a year, which means when our state and police inspector comes in, we had 36 buses that had some type of major problem that couldn't go back out on the road, to down to this year to where we had 1. And a lot of it's tied into this because it'll tell you we can spend more time fixing the SCRs and all the other emission stuff with this instead of stuff breaking down all the time. And this also helps them too because it also eliminates on the drivers for their heavy foot on their brake pedal. Now I can print out a report and I know who's tearing up brakes, and it stretches that out too.
I know you've got a great team of technicians out there in the shop, and they depend a lot on this data to help them do the maintenance, correct?
Yes. I got half of them convinced to check every day when the fleet's running, but since schools and all this corona, we've not had to. So, but half the guys check at least every day on there and see what's going on and check on their buses, especially if it goes to the red do not drive side. They can get at it and look at it before I get it, before I have to start asking questions what's going on.
Okay, well, we thank you. Certainly thank you folks for being on this call today, and don't be bashful as we go through some of these slides.
Okay.
Yep, so with that, I'll introduce myself. I'm Dave Mullen. I'm the Connected Technologies lead that's working through the call. And as we got ready to do this, talking with Randy and with Alan, they explained there was going to be a pretty broad audience. We'll have some customers and dealers that, may have more equipment and more technicians than what our friends here at Huron Valley do. We'll have some folks that maybe they've never touched any of this connected stuff. So some of this may seem very basic and oversimplified, but I'd ask you to remember we're taking it all the way down to the beginning to make sure we don't leave anybody behind maybe that hasn't touched this. So, we're going to get into on-command connection, and well, isn't this just telematics? Well, the reality for you folks, for us as an industry, is our buses are becoming more and more connected, and they're certainly becoming more and more complicated, right? You think about you folks and how your fleets age and how far back you go. We've still got some pre-emissions buses out there, and that some of you, as you make your purchases, you're dealing with after treatment and some of the newer items that maybe you hadn't had to work. Then you add on to that the rapid pace of technology where you're bringing in cameras in the buses, both inside and looking at the stop arms. You're bringing in the child check and all the student ridership, student presence items that exist today, the growing want or need for Wi-Fi to be in the bus so that students can stay connected on their iPads and Chromebooks and continue to be engaged with their educational experience. There's a lot of moving pieces, right? And there's so much data you can get overwhelmed. So telematics, for those who maybe haven't had it or your district hasn't gotten into it, arguably it's a cell phone you can't speak in, right? It's about something plugged into the data bus on the bus, getting that information out of it, moving to the cloud. And in the pure telematics world, that's information that's used around fleet operations and regulatory compliance and driver accountability. And Tammy and DJ talked a little bit on that driver accountability piece as they spoke to the hard braking and hard accelerating events and being able to, counsel those drivers about, hey, this behavior that I see leads to these things, which mean I'm going to have to take that bus out of service. We're going to do more work, deal with brakes and so forth, right? So what we're driving to with all of this is you have now in new vehicles a very complex computerized machine with a lot of other layers of technology built into it, with operators that really can't and don't understand what that vehicle is doing. So I think a lot of us can relate to getting a complaint, whether it was a write-up or having a driver come talk to us about this light came on, what am I going to do? And for you, what is it going to cost, right? And so for those of you that have technicians that have your own laptop, that cost is the impact to your shop throughput, right? And I think DJ and Tammy kind of spoke to that, right? When they were short bodies and didn't have the visibility, not being able to have the throughput because you were dealing with the firefighting around this kind of impacted you. Is that a correct characterization, DJ? So anyway, what I want us to think is we're going to see this light on every bus we've got once a year. As Navistar, through our operating idea of IC bus, we understand that. Yes, sir? So we've spent the last 7 years really focused on this connected vehicle, the idea about we need to engage differently with both our customers and our dealers in the space of the remote diagnostics, in the space of service communications, and really kind of step into be able to provide vehicle-centric analytics and some consultative work that, you know, we would not have done before. And that's not simply about us selling a good bus with the technology in it, but it's also about gaining the understanding and doing the work to bring pieces of the puzzle that you folks already have. So, you know, certainly we have sold, and the folks at Huron Valley run the OCC telematics, but we've got to integrate some third-party folks to clean that up. We work with some transportation management, some fleet software providers. So this is really, our connected team is really trying to take care of you all as end customers, the IC bus dealer network, and keep our Navistar functions, keep Alan engaged where he's got real data to understand, do we have a house or do we have a mouse, and how do we best help a customer clean that up. So what's important about OnCommand Connection, you know, we are the industry's advanced remote diagnostic tool of choice. And the reason for that is that we have an open architecture environment. So we've integrated with many, many telematics service providers driven by you all, our customers, with, you know, today now more than 30 telematic provider integrations in with more to come. As we look at OnCommand Connection, it's an all makes tool. So the reason that's possible and what's important in that is in 2010, when we had the real biggest emissions law change that hit all of us, the engine manufacturers and trunk manufacturers had to become SAE compliant with the 1939 Communications Protocol, meaning all the proprietary fault codes that all of us have generated in the past, while we may still utilize them, we have to publish that information in the same format across it. So an issue on an IC bus or on low coolant is the exact same fault code as the low coolant on a Thomas or anybody else. And then where we really enrich that and make it live is when we get to the demo, we're going to show you our fault code action plans. And that's really about three things, right? If we only take one thing away from OnCommand Connection today, it's this is a tool that allows us to boil a lot of data and make your problems more visible. Then we get into digging into them and we try to make them more understandable, and we provide a path to where you all can take action quickly on that. So you've got the telematics data, you blend in our service expertise along with that of our tier 1 supplier partners, our friends at Cummins, Eaton, Allison, Bendix, and so forth, and you end up with advanced remote diagnostics. Again, focused on providing the ability, if you make the changes that the folks at Huron Valley did, to increase your uptime, to reduce and change where your maintenance spend actually happens and reduce those costs. And most importantly for us, right, improving that fleet safety, right? Not having a bus on the side of the road needing a tow truck. You know, none of us need to explain what that impact means. If we can minimize that, reduce that, drive that down to zero, that's so much better for our students and for our families, you know, expecting that reliable transportation we provide. And then the side benefit, right, is if those buses aren't having problems, ideally that means we have a better experience for the driver and we retain those folks and we're not having to deal with that driver churn and train those folks up. So kind of the visualization of where we impact on the right is two pieces, right? We take massive amounts of data and we drive it up the pyramid to where we're really able to give not only what, but how did that happen and why, and what do we got to do? And it really comes to life when we walk through the demo here a little bit, when we get to our live fault code action plans and we get into what we call synthetic codes and severities. So again, taking the faults, putting the machine learning and the logic into how bad they are and what does this mean to me impact-wise, and then the fault code action plans driving the, and how do I as a technician diagnose this and repair it. And I talked earlier about our real difference being that we're open source, open network. So you can see in my eye chart on the left, and it really is an eye chart, some of the partners we have integrated into ONCOMMAND Connection. So if your district has a system already in place and has some bus telematics, and it's one of these providers on the left, we'd encourage you to reach out to your facing IC bus dealer, work with those folks, and get lined up on ONCOMMAND Connection so you can start down the journey that DJ and Tammy have done, right? And then in the coming future, later on in presentations, we're going to be able to talk about how we've embedded some technology in our newest buses going forward that are going to get to leverage those partnerships differently and better without installing some third-party hardware. So that takes us to our demo. So I'm going to shift slides and go to the live screen. And this is real data. This is, you know, the buses that have operated and are out on the road today. And we're going to walk through pretty quickly two components of the system. We're going to walk through this main front dashboard, which, you know, folks, as we look at this, I'd have you all think this is kind of the recap page, right? This is the what's going on at a glance. And then we're going to go to the vehicle scans page, which is really more the working page. How do I gain the visibility and put some context around things? The next piece we'll touch when I get to it is the health report, which that's structure we use as a service organization and have used for a decade. So for those of you that have not been involved with telematics, have not used remote diagnostics, here's where I want to call out differently that we as a team support you. Certainly we have an 800 number that's 24/7, and customers using ONCOMMAND Connection can call that, and we're here for you. But what we really want to encourage you to do is the IC bus deal that you work with, as you get into this and start to learn the system, if you don't understand what you're looking at, please call the service department at your facing bus store. Those folks with the VIN number of the bus are going to be able to get in and look at the exact same health report and fault code action plans you're looking at, and they will be best positioned to help you guys jointly make a decision about what it is we need to do with this bus, right? It's important to call that out. The other competitors in our space have a remote diagnostics platform, but it's not open source and it's not shared across their dealer network. So you can't get to the help, the personalized help that the IC bus team can give you. And then the last piece we'll look at in the system is the fault code action plans. And as I said earlier, and hopefully you see, that's where we make it understandable and give you the things you need to take action and refine that bus. So DJ, I'd ask you to be ready as I click on this. If you see something or you want to call out how your technicians or you leverage any piece of this as we go, I'd invite you to jump in. But what we're looking at here is, you know, we have a number of filters on the screen. You see I've selected them all to make sure I see everything going on. And so what's important to flag for those of you that rely on our dealer network to diagnose and repair your buses is that's visible right here. So the at dealership is something we can make visible. At known location would be buses that are in a geofenced area you set up within our system. You see this third filter is about with inactive fault codes. So those of us that are technicians or technically minded, these faults go active and inactive, some of them several times in seconds, right? And so if you think about numbers that we're trying to manage, as I have the buses that are operating today, you know, we can talk to 3 bus drivers, right, with a service immediately level fault. It's reasonable to think we can get to these 6 folks, but if your district is such that these numbers are much bigger, one of the strategies I'd encourage people to use is to take those inactives out at first, and you saw how our numbers drop. So these are the buses that those faults are actively going on when they last reported into the back end. So again, that's a trick to play with. How do I boil this ocean and get it down to a manageable level for me? You know, we can definitely attack 1 and 2, and after we get through that, bring the ones that have gone inactive back into the game. So just a way for you to think about that. So this is, like I say, kind of the visual recap, what's going on at a glance. DJ, Tammy, any thoughts on anything I said here or something you'd add? for the audience so they can understand how you guys and folks really use it?
Nope, that's basically what we do every morning or every afternoon. We usually just leave the two on with inactive and the other one because they change too much too quickly anyway. So leave them on and go.
Well, like I said, that's awesome. So like I say, it's a numbers game, right? For districts of your size, it's appropriate to leave them on. If we've got somebody on the call that's got, 500 buses, we may have to toggle it just to be able to eat the elephant. All right, so with that, we're going to go to the vehicle scans page. And like I say, this is really kind of a working page. And I guess maybe the other way to talk about it is for folks that are comfortable or that use Excel or work in spreadsheets all day long, it's a way to present all that data in that way where they can work it and understand what's going on and reach out to those operators to tackle the problems before you're told about it, or the ones that the drivers don't bother to write up that they should be telling us about, and to boil that a number of different ways. So I'd have you look, again, we're seeing those 48 vehicles that have been in operation today. I've got some scans that overlap. And our fault severities here, just to explain what they're trying to tell us, is service soon is the lowest severity of fault we have. And by soon, what that means is we're thinking this is something you can document and have that in a repair order when you have scheduled maintenance time to do that. So we need to respond to it. It's not something that's going to cause progressive damage. It's not something that's going to accelerate down to derating a vehicle or taking power away from it. It's certainly not going to lead to a bus being on the side of the road by itself. So that's why we have soon. We kind of take that stress away. Service immediately, our next level of intensity up, really is named that way because in a lot of operations, we find that the drivers don't have clean line of sight to the technicians like DJ and Tammy and their team. They're talking to a driver manager, an operations person, a dispatcher type, for lack of a better word, that they don't have a understanding of the bus, right? And so if they had that warning light on that we talked about earlier, and they get into a conversation with that non-technical person, they don't know to ask much, but they'll ask, well, how's the bus running, right? And if the driver says anything that sounds like it's running okay, well, in a lot of places that means it's running okay, and we forget all about it. So service immediately is named that way, not to cause us to think, pull the bus over, park it immediately, don't do anything more, but it's to overcome that, well, the driver said the bus is okay, and to arm us as a technical team with the ability to say, I appreciate they said that, I am telling you it's not. Don't dispatch it out again. We need to have a different bus run that route this afternoon or tomorrow morning to give us time to dig into this problem so we can fix this one thing and not have it progress and become worse, or not have it cause progressive damage to other components. And then stop now with the stop sign is the highest severity. And that would indicate to us that if we had one of those this morning, and we don't, that would be the bus that we want to talk to that driver immediately and ask the questions, is this happening? And they really only have three answers, right? They have the, well, yeah, now that you mention it, because they hadn't really thought about it, and strangely, things like this become normal for that bus, right? The, oh, you can see that, which meant they kind of understood what was going on, but they were going to finish what they're doing. I'm going to try to get this home, and then we'll talk about it when I get back to the house. Or the answer we really don't want, which is, well, yeah, that's happening, and I've been telling about that for a week, and nothing's happened yet. So let's look at those service immediatelys and see what DJ and his team have going on this morning. And we're going to take out those inactives and those no fault codes and drive us down to that one that's got an active problem going on. And what I want to call out, again, the way we manage this is built leveraging Microsoft Azure. That's a cloud program. So there's a lot of Excel micro tools in here. I'm going to bring in my inactives so I have a quantity again. And it means all these headers up here can be resorted in a click. So you can see I've now got a 2012 Freightliner with the ISB with a lot going on it. I've got a 2015 CE with the MaxForce DT, and I've got a 2019 with the Cummins ISB. And you saw the faults go up there. So if you're a technician, you can look at a glance and be able to read and see what these issues are. And DJ and Tammy, I don't know if we've done anything with the 3 of these buses. Maybe you can tell us what happens from here in your operation.
2011 is a work in progress. That's an electrical wiring problem. So we've got to play with that every day and see what happens. And scroll down, see what the next one is. There's a lot of them codes are in there for the emission side. That 55 is the one that's come up today. We don't know yet. We haven't looked at it. That's the one they just brought back in off the road. They were driving it. We'll look at it when it gets in. So this looks like it's the fuel injection cylinder. So we probably got another injector out there. And then 63 is at the dealer for the SCR and DEF problem. It's all undercover under warranty, the whole system.
So we guys just heard it in real time, right? DJ, because his team has been working the system and walking through it at a glance, he knows what these 3 buses are up to. All right, so let me show you the health report. We'll use 55 since that's one that isn't in the building. You're not working it yet. And like I say, health report, 2 things I want to call out. And I know I said it, but as we get into this, as your first start, again, please leverage the IC bus team at your facing dealer to help make that informed decision, right? Tammy and DJ and their teams taking this walk and gotten there. The structure's in place. Our whole service team knows what it is and they can help you out. The other thing I'd call out as you look at these, if you've seen one generated with a laptop, is this data scan on the telematics, you can see we aggregate. So the way I would have us as users think about this health report is it's like a flip chart in a conference room. The telematics hardware, in this case ours or any of those partners we talked about, they're going to send us an odometer, a fuel economy, engine hours, the faults going active and inactive, and we're recording those changes as they come. Some of those as fast as every 15 seconds, right? So yes, all those things change. So we do that for 7 days. At the end of 7 days, we pull that sheet off, we hang it on the wall as part of our history, and we start on a new sheet. And the reason we handle our data that way is the telematics hardware, no matter who made it, can't see past is it active or inactive. They can't see the faults that are able to resolve themselves, and unless you intervene, they can't tell that you fixed the bus. Now, if it comes to the IC bus dealer or if you have an international truck dealer helping fix those buses for you, when they use their service tools, our back end will see that flag, and we know not to go 7 days. But we'll show you what we want to do if we repair it in our shop or if you were to send it out to a Cummins distributor or somebody else to have those fixes put in. You can see, in this case, we have some visibility and access. We'd expect to find the mill light is on in this bus when we go to look at it. We have a synthetic fault, meaning this isn't something that's going to trigger on it, but there's a breather conversion that we can square away. Here's an EGR low flow code and these items. Again, there's a lot to read here, but you can see hopefully where we're starting to do that simplification process. What are these issues, right? That takes me to the next component I spoke of, the fault code action plans. Now, as this takes a second to resolve, you'll see there's a number of pieces to this sheet that, again, depending who you are in your organization, you're going to use different parts of it. But we've stripped this down to its simplest, most basic, understandable definition. So, again, the driver manager, the dispatcher, the whoever would be looking at this that isn't PJ and Tammy and their team, you know, they may not understand what an EGR is, but they can see it's a low flow fault. They can understand it's a service soon. They can understand that this is something that could become a bigger problem in 24 hours, give or take. We've optimized it around this bus. And DJ, maybe walk us through how you guys are walking through the health report, because Alan explained to me again offline that you're using all these different tools pretty well.
We do it by trial and error because I never keep them all memorized. But we'll click on, like, I think that once you click on it, see what pops up to tell us what we got to do and what we're going to need for start fixes, so we ain't wasting a lot of time. A lot of them got in there. It tells you step by step what the trial or the diagnostic half of it's going to be. It'll tell you if you need, you know, your multimeters or fuel injection pressure gauges or flow gauges or whatever you got to have to check it. And you start from there, and it'll confirm that you need to do that part of the repair.
Yep. So big change, right? Anybody that worked with us prior to these live fault code action plans, we couldn't get you to a diagnostic package in one link. Those of you that are legacy customers, you may recall we had published a massive book called Diagnostics and a second sister volume called Repair. And so, again, centralizing that data like DJ called out. Giving us some questions to talk to with the operator of the bus. Again, technicians we know to ask these questions, right? But for the non-technical folks, being able to have these questions, being able to push the conversation with the driver to make them go, well, yeah, now that you mention it, drive that thought. And then here's where, DJ called out, I'm going to need NED. I'm going to need a USB link to plug into it. I may need to check my Bose control. So here's the test pieces, and here's the potential parts without digging into it, right? So fault code action plan, make it simplify what's wrong, give some questions to talk with the operator of the bus to figure out what's what, call out the tools and the potential parts you may need. Let's see if this came through yet. It's wanting to hiccup on me, so that's what we get for playing live without a net, but potentially lead you straight to a diagnostic package that will get you all the answers you need. So in the 30,000-foot view, that's the major components of ONCOMMAND connection. Having the dashboard, having the vehicle scans and focusing on your problems, having the health reports to put them in some context, and then having the fault code action plans to get you directly to the service information you need and the parts information you need to make a change. DJ, is there any tips you would give or things you can think back when you all first started on your connected journey that if you had known it back then, you surely would have sped things up, or maybe some changes that have happened over time in utilizing the system?
Well, it sped everything up because now we can get at it and look at it. We don't have to always send a tech out on the road to take a road test on it, so you're saving time for that because you're in the shop. Because when it first came out, it wasn't really all accurate. Well, now it's gotten more accurate. We don't have to rely on always taking it out for a ride. So if it's throwing a fault code right now, the system's all updated, and it's usually pretty close to what it's supposed to be doing. And then also, you can figure out everything else that's made it go wrong also without having to take it out for a ride. And then, like each guy in the shop, they can talk to each other and say, hey, you found this one on this one. So the communication's gotten better on that too. If you got fault code such and such, and they plug it in and start running the ONCOMMAND or the diagnostics or the NED or whatever it is, you can go right and start shooting all the way through instead of have to go through the whole process of running a diagnostic test to figure it out that something's not right.
That's great. So I think I heard 2 points for you. Let's make sure I heard you right. One is we've had to make some improvements on the way too, right? At admin a static program, so you can see we've been making some changes, but that's helped your throughput or made you all more efficient because you're not having to go re-verify every single thing you think you see. Is that right?
Correct. It's cut our time.
So that's got to be
close to almost half. It's much simpler and easier now than when it first started.
Well, that's awesome to hear. Thank you for that. And then the second part I heard you say, and I think some of us have this challenge, is your technicians are now on an even space when they go to have conversations with each other. They're maybe communicating differently or better than they did before. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah, because you get them around where they can say, okay, now, how far can we skip through whatever to start run the diagnostic test, because when you run the Diamond Logic and all them, you got to run the other tests to check everything from A to B, and there's certain points in there you can skip on. Depends on whose diagnostic programs we have. We have 2 different sets here, so I got a View company, and I also have another company that we use for diagnostic and comparing.
Well, I appreciate being sensitive to that, and I think that's the common experience, right? Most districts have more than one bus, and they're going to have to deal with multiple engines and multiple diagnostic platforms. But, the takeaway I think here is we at least get you pointed in the right direction, even when you have to go to those other tools to repair the actual bus that's having a problem.
Correct.
All right. Well, Alan, Randy, you have any questions or thoughts for DJ and Tammy before I go back to slide, finish up that part of the presentation?
Dave, thank you. I think that was really good. It's nice to see the real world application of it. So no, I'm good right now. Thanks.
Well, with that, we're going to talk very quickly about one last piece of the connected journey, and this piece would be for customers that are using our dealer network to make repairs. And those of you that have been IC customers for a while, hopefully you've touched some or all of these programs we've highlighted out. So, service information, we talked about it. It's been around a long time, right? ONCOMMAND connection, like I say, we became really commercially viable in 2014. So, we're on a 6-year journey. And for some of you folks in the audience that have touched all these different pieces, you all know and understand the frustration because there's a different look, a different feel, managing multiple databases, putting stuff together. So in September of this year, we introduced a new program that we're calling International 360. And when we are done, this is really the goal. We're not going to rewrite all those programs and change all the pieces and everything else, but we're going to leverage the way computing works today to try to commonalize, to have one interface to these different things and have it where it's kind of role-based and users will get to the items they're supposed to have directly on their own. So what International 360 is today is it really is about a dealer and a repair logistics piece. So again, another thing that is leveraging all those interactive pieces, certainly leveraging the data from ONCOMMAND connection to try to reduce the repair duration, to reduce that overall cost of spend when you're in our shop. And then really where we're focused today is to streamline that communication, provide transparency as your buses go into the IC bus or International Dealer Network to get repaired. And where I would have you, if you've not seen the tool or been on our earlier webinars to understand the difference, because I have seen some confusion with some customers and certainly some of our dealers, is, we talked about the fault severities earlier with how bad is this problem on the bus, right? In the International 360, this is their analog to it, and it's not about how bad the problem is. It's about where is that vehicle in the course of having those repairs. So is there action that's got to be required? Is there an update coming? Do I have service requests? Again, this is the dealer view. We're calling them out. Hey, there's some stuff that triage is late from what your promise was to the customer, or there's an update specific to that triage in there. So again, we don't want to get deep into that. I360 can be its own 2-hour conversation, but I wanted for folks that either have heard about both programs or starting to touch them and have started to say, well, do I not need ONCOMMAND connection anymore? Does everything just happen in 360? No, we are a data source that feeds that, but 360 really is a valuable tool for looking at your vehicles that are in our dealer network being repaired. As we distribute this, I've got 2 appendices in it. One of them is the system components. So again, if you haven't used ONCOMMAND connection, you're going to be able to go back to these slides at your leisure and see what those components are we talked about, have an overview of the dashboard and the scans page and whatnot, and give you up to speed on what those items are. The other appendix that this is kind of some leading thought is in our I360 program, we are building in some advanced PM tools around that. And so we want to just touch 3 pieces of that. For the fleets that are leveraging 360, you don't have your own technicians, you're reliant on using the IC bus and International Dealer Network to work on that. It provides different and better trackings around those pure maintenance needs. So it, again, puts it on one page, has that to where both you as the customer and your supporting dealer can see what's coming due around those different components. It's customizable to what your fleet does, and there's those notification paths in it within 360. And you're going to be able to upload a template, assign everything there, and you're not going to have to manage your maintenance in multiple places. Once you get in that last performed event, that schedule rolls forward, and then globally you're going to be able to apply what are the values I want around that. Am I targeting different fuel economy to drive when I do this? Am I driving around a different event interval? So again, it's a tool being built and due to deploy here in September that we just want to take a second to talk about, to have folks looking at 360 or just now onboarding 360 that you know, we can help you manage your baseline maintenance differently or better than we did in the past. So Randy, with that, I've prattled my time away. We'd give it to you and Alan to take us home and send everybody back to their regularly scheduled day.
Great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody here. Alan, you want to wrap us up?
Tammy and DJ.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, most importantly, thank Tammy and DJ for being on this call today. You know, this period, this summer is the busiest time, and certainly they're coping with the changing strategies with the virus and routing the children to purchase cargo. And I thank them for spending the time to be on the call. One other item on this, you know, they have, Huron Valley has been working with us for the last 3 years in LPC. And, you know, it's been an education for all, but most importantly, when we talk about the uptime on the vehicles and making it a little bit easier for the techs in the shop, work on the real valuable tool. Dave, you did a wonderful job on this today, and thank everybody for being on the call. Those that were on the call, you will get a survey shortly. Survey on everything, and once again, fill it out and be honest. If there's something we can do to improve our program, let us know. Tammy and DJ, we do these every 2 weeks, and we invite our customers to the call. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. We'll see everyone in 2 weeks.